President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Cohen. Here. Cohen present. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell present. Supervisor Fewer.
Present.
Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Kim present. Supervisor Peskin.
Present.
Peskin present. Supervisor Ronan.
Present.
Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai present. Supervisor Sheehy.
Present.
Sheehy present. Supervisor Tang. Tang not present. Supervisor Yee.
Present.
Yee present. Madam President, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
Yes, Madam President. We are in receipt of correspondence from Mayor Lee on June 1st, 2017, communicating notice to the Board of Supervisors pursuant to Charter Section 4.132 of a transfer of function between departments within the executive branch. The reorganization shall become effective 30 days after its issuance unless disapproved by the Board of Supervisors in the next 3 weeks. If you are interested in hosting a hearing on this matter, please let us know in writing by Thursday, June 8th.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, can we go to our next item?
Items 1 through 4. Madam President, first we'll take the minutes.
Okay. Are there any comments or questions about the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from April 18th as well as April 25th? Moved by Supervisor Farrell, seconded by Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, those meeting minutes will be approved after public comment. Next item.
Items 1 through 4 are on consent. These items are considered to be routine. If a member objects, an item may be removed and considered separately.
Okay, seeing no names on the roster, Madam Clerk, on the consent agenda, please call the roll.
Supervisor Ronan?
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai? Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy?
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen? Aye. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell? Farrell, aye. Supervisor Fewer?
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim? Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin? Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those items are approved unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 5 was referred without recommendation from the Land Use and Transportation Committee. It's an ordinance to amend Planning Code Section 206 to amend the 100% Affordable Housing Bonus Program to add the Home SF Program, the Analyzed State Density Bonus Program, and the Individually Requested State Density Bonus Program to provide for development bonuses and zoning modifications for increased affordable housing.
Thank you. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much. I won't spend too much time on this item since we had a lovely debate last time around, but I just wanted to echo my thanks to all of my colleagues here today, as well as the incredibly hardworking staff from the Planning Department, Mayor's Office of Housing, who worked on this, and Deanna Keyson, formerly of my office, who has spent over 2 years to ensure that we can, for the future, build more affordable housing for our middle-income families in the future. So I'll just keep it at that today, and I see that there are other colleagues who want to speak, but just want to thank everyone for their support on this.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. I just want to say that last week we had a good discussion, as Supervisor Tang mentioned, and as you know, I was trying to get some amendment last minute as a May to look at one particular piece of District 7, and the amendment did not pass, and so I had an emotional response to it not being passed and voted against this whole legislation. During the week, I've been able to step back a little bit and look at it more carefully in regards to the benefits that it may have for the city and as well as District 7, and came to the conclusion that the piece that I couldn't get in doesn't outweigh the positives that is in the legislation. So I am actually going to change my vote to a positive today.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Fewer.
Yes, thank you, President. So it's good to have my voice back. And since I haven't been speaking for many weeks, I do have some comments, and I just want to thank my colleagues for lending your voices for me and reading my statements. But, you know, during the 3.5 weeks when I didn't have a voice, actually, it really gave me an opportunity to really listen and really hear without feeling that I had to respond because, quite frankly, I couldn't respond. And during the past 3.5 weeks, I have been really listening to what people have said and also what they've emailed to me about HomeSF. So HomeSF is a better alternative to the state density bonus program, and clearly many people are in support of it. I, too, am supportive of it, but the dialogue around HomeSF has been somewhat shocking. I served on the school board in San Francisco for 8 years, and before that, I was a community organizer for 8 years at Coleman Advocates for Children and Youth. I have been in the homes of many, many low-income public school families, and those families are still forefront in my mind. During the HomeSF dialogue, I have heard from folks that have Ivy League educations, have been financially responsible, and have done all the right things. And I have heard from people who are renting condos from their parents and that they deserve to buy a place of their own. And I completely believe that that is their truth. And to be clear, I also know what it's like to have privilege. When your family can plan a dinner at Gary Danko Restaurant for your 60th birthday, clearly, I have privilege. But I know another truth also. I know that there are families sharing one room and a single toilet and a single shower with 30 people, and they have no options. I am also concerned about our African American households, as according to the BLA report that was commissioned May of this year, it shows that the average household income for our Black households is $29,800. When I ask if African Americans will qualify for HomeSF, I am told this is not for them. What is for them? What are the options for them? If the only options are public housing and 100% affordable, then let's build more 100% affordable. I am looking to racially diversify my neighborhood. So although HomeSF will build more housing in my district, which I think is great, and also give opportunities for new families to move in, I welcome them, and I think it is wonderful that they want to live in my neighborhood because I actually live in a fabulous neighborhood. I also hope, though, that there will be housing developments for African American families in my neighborhood. I am a little disappointed also that we were not able to exempt legacy businesses in my neighborhood that have no housing above it, like Green Apple Books and Joe's Ice Cream, because those are the anchors in my neighborhood as we build. But I just really want to thank Supervisor Tang for her flexibility, for really listening, for reaching out to me, spending a lot of time to explain it to me. I am, as I think another supervisor has called me, a newbie. And so I just really want to say the flexibility that makes it good for my neighborhood, too. I think it's very sensitive to, you were sensitive to everything that we heard. And many of the comments that I got, actually, I know you got, and you really heard them, and so I just really want to thank you. And I just want to say also that I am supporting this, and I already have a developer that approached me last week for development in my neighborhood, and so we look to be building more units in my neighborhood and getting some density and actually building up my commercial corridors. Again, thank you very much, supervisors, for working hard on this. And I am new to this, but this has been, I think, a very interesting and educational experience for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. I'm glad you got your voice back, Supervisor Fewer. I did want to just address one point that was made around African American families. We actually did ask our planning staff to run analysis on this because we wanted to make sure that this was a program that really could provide housing for all, communities, not just certain types. And so the analysis that we have shows that Black households are actually likely to qualify are as likely to qualify as all SF households for home SF units. So there is no discrepancy there. There isn't any data to show that they would not qualify. So I just wanted to make that point very clear, because that is certainly not a program that I would support if we were to exclude any communities. So I wanted to put that out there, and I do understand, yes, there are still concerns around legacy businesses and so forth, but I do think that, again, this program offers the strongest thing that is closest to a protection than any other program or law that we have on the books. And the one last piece of the negotiation that had occurred ensured that we will have at least 12% of the units dedicated to the very low income families here in San Francisco. So it really, if you think about it, is additive to the inclusionary requirements that we are asking of folks. So again, we in Home SF are not taking away from any of the low income brackets at all. We are adding to it. That's something that I can feel, I think, very proud of. So with that said, again, I want to thank Supervisor Yee for supporting it today, and I'm sorry that we didn't have a good conversation last time around, but I want to thank you for coming around, so thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. And I want to also add to that comment, thank you, Supervisor Fewer, for expressing your concern about African-American households in the city. When we look at the numbers, not just around housing, but unemployment, we do have challenges in San Francisco. I'm also thinking about the fact that we have a large number of African-Americans who no longer live in San Francisco, and many of those particular households actually qualify for many of the programs that we have now, and with Home SF and providing additional housing, I think that the biggest issue that we have is outreach. The biggest challenge we have before us, if we want to have diverse communities, if we want to invite African Americans into the fold or back to San Francisco, we have so much more work to do. And that outreach is not only the outreach that we need to do in San Francisco and the preservation of our existing affordable housing stock, but more importantly, the outreach to my friends who I actually personally sent emails from the Mayor's Office of Housing for Housing Opportunities, people who live in Vallejo, in Antioch, in Oakland, and other places outside the city, who actually work for San Francisco, who kids were put out of our school district because unfortunately they don't live here anymore, and because their kids can't continue to go to the schools that some of them grew up in. And so it's a continual conversation, and I appreciate your efforts to continue to shine a light on the issue. Thank you. Supervisor Fewer.
Yes, thank you, President Breed. And I am just using the figures from a May 9th BLA report on the median household income in San Francisco by ethnicity from 2011 to 2015. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, on the item, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance finally passes unanimously. Next item, please.
Item 6 is an ordinance to appropriate $6.5 million to overtime and deappropriate the same amount of permanent salaries and training budget in the police department's operating budget in order to support the department's increased overtime expense. Madam President, this ordinance requires a 2/3 vote of all members of the board for approval.
Seeing no names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance will be passed unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 7 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to rename the San Francisco City College Enrollment Fee Assistance Fund as the San Francisco City College Financial Assistance Fund, to clarify the permissible uses of monies appropriated to this fund, and add 2 members to the fund's oversight committee and increase the number of required meetings for the oversight committee.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next, Madam Clerk, please call items 8 and 9 together.
Items 8 and 9 are 2 ordinances that deappropriate funds from the District 10 participatory budget projects in the general city responsibility and reappropriates the funds to the various departments in order to support the authorized District 7 participatory budgeted projects in fiscal years 2016 through 2017. For item 8, it's $244,000, and for item 9, it's $300,000.
Colleagues, can we take those items, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinances pass unanimously on the first reading. Item number 10.
Item 10 is a resolution to retroactively approve modification number 1 to the license and services agreement between the City and County of San Francisco and the Airport Research and Development Foundation to cap the city administrative services fee at $250,000 annually for the period of March 13th, 2017 through March 12th, 2020.
Colleagues, can we take this item? Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Call items 11 and 12 together, please.
Items 11 and 12 are two resolutions that authorize the Director of Risk Management to execute agreements for insurance broker and risk management consulting services. For item 11 is with Alliant Insurance Services, Inc. for a not-to-exceed amount of $34.5 million, a 3-year term, and an option to extend for 3 additional 2 years through June 30th, 2020. Item 12 authorizes the execution of a third amendment to the contract with Aon Risk Insurance Services West, Inc. to increase the contract limit from approximately $15.7 million to approximately $20 million for a term ending July 21st, 2018.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Item 13.
Item 13 is a resolution to approve the Fourth Amendment to a lease between BRCP 1390 Market, LLC, and the city for office space used by the Office of the City Attorney at 1390 Market Street for an initial annual rent of approximately $3.9 million and 3% annual increases thereafter, extending the term for 5 years from January 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2022, and approving the continued use of a portion of the premises for child care services.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 14 is a resolution to authorize the Third Amendment to a lease between the City and SFOC, LLC for the Department of Emergency Management, the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and the interim continued use by the Assessor Recorder's Office for office space at 711 Van Ness Avenue to extend the lease term through January 31st, 2021 at a base rent of approximately $482,000 per year in addition to other expenses above the base year 2018.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 15 is a resolution to approve the Recreation and Park Department General Manager's declaration of an emergency based on catastrophic tree mortality at Camp Mather with an estimated cost of more than $250,000 to repair.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 16 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Arts Commission to accept and expend a grant in the amount of $75,000 from the National Endowment for the Arts for the Chinatown Alleyways Project with a grant cycle from August 1st, 2016 through July 31st, 2018.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 17 and 18 together.
Items 17 and 18 are two resolutions that authorize multifamily housing revenue bonds for item 17 in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $47.4 million for the purpose of providing financing for the acquisition, the development and construction of a 113-unit multifamily rental housing project known as Eddy and Taylor Family Housing. Item 18 authorizes the execution and performance of a purchase and sale of real estate agreement in connection with the acquisition of 210 Taylor Street for $10.6 million and authorizing a long-term ground lease of the property for $15,000 annual base rent with Eddy and Taylor Associates to construct a 100% affordable 113-unit multifamily rental housing development for low-income households and formerly homeless families and a commercial shell for commercial space.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Item 19.
Item 19 is a resolution to approve Amendment Number 2 to a contract with New Flyer of America, Inc. to purchase an additional 185 standard low-floor electric trolley buses for an additional amount of approximately $245 million and a total contract amount not to exceed approximately $395 million with no change to the terms of the contract.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 20 through 26 together.
These are 7 resolutions to authorize the Director of the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to execute a local operating subsidy program grant agreement with Alabama Street Housing Associates, LP, to provide operating subsidies for formerly homeless adults at Mosaica Family Apartments. Item 20 is at 655 Alabama Street with Alabama Street Housing Associates for a 15-year term ending December 31st, 2032 for $1.2 million. Item 21 is for 680 Florida Street to provide operating subsidies for formerly homeless adults for a 15-year term ending December 31st, 2032 for $3.6 million. Item 22 is for formerly homeless individuals and families at Arnett Watson Apartments, 650 Eddy Street for a 15-year term ending June 30th, 2032 for $19 million. Item 23 is with Armstrong Place Associates LP for formerly homeless senior households at Armstrong Place, 5600 3rd Street for a total term of 15 years and 2 months, starting November 1st, 2017, ending December 31st, 2032 for $4.2 million. Item 24 is with Hotel Essex LP for formerly homeless adults at Hotel Essex, 684 Ellis Street for a total term of 15 years and 6 months, ending December 31st, 2032 for $18.6 million. Item 25 with BTW Housing Partners LP for formerly homeless transition age youth households at John Burton Advocates for Youth Housing Complex at 800 Presidio Avenue for a total term of 15 years and 6 months, starting July 1st, 2017, ending December 31st, 2032, not to exceed $7.7 million. And for item 26, with Polk Senior Housing Associates LP to provide operating subsidies for formerly homeless households at 990 Polk Street Apartments, Polk Senior Apartments, 990 Polk Street, for a term of 15 years and 6 months, starting July 1st, 2017, and ending December 31st, 2032, not to exceed $13 million.
Colleagues, can we take those items, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Item number 27.
Item 27 is a resolution to approve the issuance of tax-exempt obligations by the California Statewide Communities Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $53 million for the financing and refinancing of various capital facilities owned by the California School of Mechanical Arts, also known as Lick Wilmerding High School.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call 28 and 29 together.
Item 28 is an ordinance to amend the Planning Code to reorganize Article 7 to update, correct, clarify, and simplify code language and other Planning Code sections. And item 29 is an ordinance to amend Planning Code Article 7 to delete the zoning control tables that are superseded by new zoning control tables in a companion ordinance and to delete duplicate definitions previously relocated to Article 2 and related outdated text.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinances pass on the first reading unanimously. Item 30.
Item 30 is an ordinance to amend the administrative code to include all persons, regardless of age, who have been lawfully occupying a rental unit as eligible tenants for purpose of calculating Ellis Act relocation payments.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Madam Clerk, please call 31 and 32 together.
Item 31 is a resolution determining that the transfer of a Type 48 on-sale general public premises license to the Drunken Monkey, located at 2417 Mission Street, will serve the public convenience. Item 32 is a resolution determining that the transfer of a Type 21 off-sale general license to Target Corporation, located at 233 Winston Drive, will serve the public convenience, and recommending that the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control impose conditions on both licensees.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item 33.
Item 33 is a motion appointing Supervisor Jane Kim for an indefinite term as an alternate member to the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission.
Colleagues, is there a motion to excuse Supervisor Kim? Moved by Supervisor Ronan, seconded by Supervisor Yee. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, Supervisor Kim is excused. Madam Clerk, on the item, please call the roll.
On item 33, Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai? Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy?
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang?
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee?
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed?
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen? Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell? Farrell, aye. Supervisor Fewer?
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Peskin?
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 10 ayes.
The motion is approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 34 and 36 together.
Items 34 through 36 are the mayor's nomination for appointment to the Treasure Island Development Authority Board of Directors for the following individuals. Item 34 is Sharon Lai for a term ending February 26, 2021. For item 35, Mark Dunlop, term ending February 26, 2020. And item 36 is Paul Giusti for a term ending April 28, 2018.
Roll call vote.
On items 34 through 36, Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
The motions are approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 37.
Item 37 is a motion to confirm the mayor's nomination for reappointment of Kimberly Brandon to the Port Commission for a term ending May 1st, 2021.
Colleagues, can we take that item, same house, same call? Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Item number 38.
Item 38 is a motion to appoint Rachel Friedrich and Rachel Rees and appointing Russell Tanofsky and Jane Tubin, terms ending April 30th, 2019, to the Commission of Animal Control and Welfare.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Item 39.
Item 39 is a motion to appoint Daniel Hlad and reappointing Connie Ford, John Elberling, and Thomas Temprano, terms ending April 27th, 2018, appointing Jane Weil and appointing Kristen Romansata and Alan Manolo, terms ending April 27th, 2019, to the South of Market Community Stabilization Fund Community Advisory Committee.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Item number 40.
Item 40 is a motion to appoint Winnie Chen, term ending July 1st, 2019, and Sarah Thompson Peer, term ending July 1st, 2018, to the Children, Youth, and Their Families Oversight and Advisory Committee.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the motion is approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, let's go to committee reports and call items 44 and 45 together.
Items 44 through 46 were considered by the Budget and Finance Committee at a regular meeting on Thursday, June 1st, 2017, and were forwarded as committee reports. Items 44 through and 45 are two resolutions that approve the issuance and sale of residential mortgage revenue bonds or notes by the city in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $76 million for the purpose of providing financing for the acquisition and rehabilitation of a 92-unit multifamily rental housing project for low or very low income persons or households located at 171 Lower Street and 1250 Sunnydale Avenue. Item 45 approves the issuance and sale of residential mortgage revenue bonds or notes in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $111 million for the purpose of providing the financing to acquire 54 McAllister Street and create the 100-unit multi-family rental housing project for low or very low-income persons or households.
Same house, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Item 46.
Item 46 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Department of Technology and the Office of Contract Administration to enter an agreement between the City and PCMG, Inc. for Microsoft Cloud software and enterprise products for a 3-year term from June 1st, 2017 through May 31st, 2020 for an amount not to exceed $30 million.
Supervisor Kim.
Colleagues, I did dissent from this vote at Budget Committee last week and wanted to explain that. Many of you may remember that back in 2015, I had also opposed our contract with then Oracle and Accenture for a 10-year budget. I really have been pushing our Department of Technology in the city to really consider open source for our software applications. Licensed software costs cities, municipalities, our country millions and millions of dollars. And according to our 2014 BLA report, here in San Francisco, we spend a minimum of $35.8 million on licensed software, many of which is replicated as open source free software that is available to the city. I really like San Francisco to move in the direction of looking at more open source. It will save our city millions of dollars and also ensures that we're not put on a leash by licensed software, which frequently dictates very long contracts. This is a $30 million contract, and often make it very difficult to for cities to wean themselves off of this type of software, ensuring that we will remain their customer for decades to come. Also, just want to note that In many cases, that at least 1/3 of our software purchases here in the city are sole source purchases. So I do think that we have a lot of work to do in our Department of Technology, and hope that being at the epicenter of the technology revolution, that we can be much more forward thinking, first of all, how to save taxpayer dollars, money, but also to participate in much more flexible open source programs. So I will be voting again no on item 46.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. Madam Clerk, on the item, please call the roll.
On item 46, Supervisor Ronan.
Aye.
Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, no. Supervisor Peskin.
No.
Peskin, no. There are 9 ayes and 2 noes with Supervisors Kim and Peskin in the dissent.
The resolution is adopted. All right, colleagues, it is now 2:30, and we have a number of 2:30 special commendations here today at the Board of Supervisors, and I'm excited to kick off our first commendation of the day. We have some very special guests here in the chamber with us, and today I'm honored to recognize the 27 recipients of the San Francisco Police Department's 3rd Annual Crisis Intervention Team awardees. Let's give them a round of applause. And I know the Chief is here, and I'm going to ask Chief Bill Scott to come up to the podium. And I just want to make a few remarks as I do. The 27 individuals that have been honored by this Crisis Intervention Team Awards went above and beyond using their crisis intervention training to de-escalate situations that could have potentially been catastrophic. We have 8 of these officers with us today, along with our Chief, Scott, and Deputy Chief Redmond, as well as I see Commander Mannix and Captain Joe McFadden, as well as Captain Paul Yip, and you'll hear from some of those individuals a little later to talk a little bit more specific about the examples that have led us here today for these honorees. I will let the Chief speak in just a minute, but first I want to take a moment to share some of the incredible work done by the Crisis Intervention Team, also known as the CIT. The Crisis Intervention Team is comprised of community members, mental health advocates, health service providers, and officers, working together to provide cutting-edge training for law enforcement officers. CIT training teaches officers how to effectively manage behavioral crisis situations in the field through de-escalation techniques, including time, distance, and cover for safety. Officers learn the inner workings of a crisis, including the feelings and emotions and individual experiences during a crisis situation. This training helps officers achieve a safe and positive outcome for both the officers and the citizens involved. There are currently 705 San Francisco Police Department members who have gone through CIT training, and 45 members from other agencies who have participated in San Francisco Police Department CIT training as well. Our police officers are put in challenging conditions on our streets every single day. These are some life and death situations where split-second decisions have huge consequences. We are lucky to have a department and a chief that supports the need to pursue smart reforms that can save lives and protect the safety of civilians and officers alike. As you will hear from our great chief and others, this training truly saves lives and enables our officers to better serve and protect all of us here in the city and county of San Francisco. And with that, I will turn this over to our police chief, Bill Scott. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you. And good afternoon, President Breed and Board of Supervisors. And President Breed, thank you for allowing us to be here and recognizing our CIT officers. It's with great pleasure that I stand before you today to talk about, we're just going to give a few examples of some of the outstanding work that has been done. And I thank you for the introduction and the explanation to explain to the public what CIT is and what it means and why we do what we do. Before I turn this over, I just want to take one moment to recognize the leadership of the CIT, and I can go no further. I know Deputy Chief Redmond is here, but although Commander Mannix doesn't have a commendation, she has been in the forefront of the leadership of getting this off the ground and getting us to the point where we are today. So I also want to take a moment to recognize Commander Ann Mannix for all the great work she's done in a leadership capacity to bring our CIT to the position that it is in. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commander Mannix.
Thanks, Chief. Thank you very much. President Breed, thank you. And you've stolen most of what I was going to say. Supervisors, thank you for having us here today. It is truly an incredible program. And President Breed, you did say a lot. Let me just highlight a few other things. On a daily basis, SFPD responds to 57 people in crisis calls a day. And of those, 12 result in 5150 psychological holds. So they're very busy. And if you add in another 11,000 well-being check calls, year to date, we're up to now over 21,000 calls where we've dealt with people in some form of crisis. That's just through the end of May. And another fun fact, if you want to call it, nationwide, agencies are committed to training 20% of their force in crisis intervention tactics. We're committed to training our entire department in those tactics. And President Breed, since you got the number, we've had one more class. We're now up to 740 officers that are trained in the 40-hour basic, if you want to call it, CIT tactics training. And additionally, we offer another 10 hours of scenario-based training. And we've trained 459 officers in that, and we go station by station. The busiest stations have been going first. We train them all together in the team concept. Moving down, you all know that in 2011, Police Commission Resolution 11-18 provided the foundation for the CIT program. It also created what was the CIT Mental Health Working Group, which President Breed already alluded to. And that's why we're here today. In May of every year, we recognize outstanding examples of crisis intervention team efforts. So again, as the President alluded to, in May we recognized 27 officers involved in 6 different incidents. And today we're going to bring you 2 of those incidents in the sake of saving some time. So I want to call up Captain Joseph McFadden of the Ingleside Station to talk about an incident.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam President and Board of Supervisors, in recognizing my officers both at Ingleside and across the city. I want these officers to stand up. Officer Mora couldn't make it today, but he was part of this team that did this. Officer Cubas, Officer Shaw, Officer Brugaletta, and Officer Fillmore. Okay. Just a little synopsis of what they went through. On February 9th of 2017, Officers Mora, Cubas, Shaw, Brugaletta, and Fillmore responded to a call of a mentally disturbed subject. The caller stated that her son was threatening to burn the house down and to pour gasoline all over himself. Upon arrival, Officers Mora and Cubas made contact with the subject, who was inside of the garage. He was carrying a gas container in his left hand and an object that appeared to be a small firearm in his right. The subject put down the gas container and turned toward the officers with the gun-shaped object pointed directly at the officers. Officers Shaw, Brugaletta, and Fillmore arrived on the scene. Officer Shaw heard the subject shouting that he wanted the police to kill him. Officer Cubas ordered the subject to drop the gun. After several more verbal commands, the subject finally dropped the object. Officer Cubas, Mora handcuffed the subject without further incident. They retrieved the object, which ended up being a replica firearm. This situation could easily have gone bad. The officers remained calm and were able to defuse the situation without using any force. Officers diffuse situations like this daily, and their efforts should be commended. The mother of the subject advised the officers later that the subject was taking manic depression narcotics, but hadn't taken those for 2 weeks. He also hadn't eaten all day, and that he wanted to kill himself. She was very thankful for the officers' presence and was very impressed for their ability to communicate effectively, therefore making a potentially dangerous encounter safe for her and her son. Therefore, I would like you to acknowledge what the fine officers did. And just what Commander Mannix said, this happens daily. It does happen all the time, and several hundreds of times during the months that passed with these officers. With that, thank you for your recognition. I want to call up Captain Paul Yep.
Paul Yep.
President Breed and Board of Supervisors, thank you very much for having us here today. We really appreciate you taking the time for this. I want to bring to your attention Officer Ashley Slomowitz, Officer Jason Robards, and Officer Zachary McAuliffe. On November 27th, 2016, at 7:48 p.m., Officer Slomowitz and her partner, Officer Zachary McAuliffe, responded to a hotel on the 400 block of Broadway Street. They went to the report of a man standing at the edge of the roof. He appeared to be planning to jump. Officer Slomowitz, a crisis intervention trained officer, and Officer McAuliffe saw the man on the edge of the 5-story building, and they knew they had to take action. They immediately made their way to the 4th floor of the building and climbed up a fire escape to the roof in order to make contact and engage with the man. When the officers got to the top of the roof, they saw that the man was just inches away from the edge. Officer Jason Robards, who is also crisis intervention trained, joined them on the roof and provided additional assistance. Officer Slomowitz took the lead and engaged the subject in conversation. She was able to convince him to move away from the edge of the building, but he moved back. This happened several times. With patience, Officer Slomowitz established rapport and a connection with the subject. He eventually told her, "I need help." Additionally, he shared that he was terminally ill, alone, and depressed. When the man asked for a priest, Officer Slomowitz offered to pray with him. She asked him to come closer to her and pray with her. Officer Slomowitz got down onto her knees. Because Officer Slomowitz, Officer McAuliffe, and Officer Robards demonstrated persistence, concern, and empathy, the man responded positively and eventually came away from the edge of the roof and agreed to go to the hospital. Officer Slomowitz, Officer McAuliffe, and Officer Robards, thank you for your commitment to aiding a person in crisis. Thank you. Commander Mannix.
Sorry, I couldn't leave. I'd be totally remiss if I didn't ask you to recognize the efforts of the officer that is immediately in charge of this program. That's Lieutenant Mario Molina. He's worked tirelessly. Come on, Mario. Worked tirelessly to make this program, bring this program where it is today. Former gang task officer, now tasked with crisis intervention team training. Mario, thank you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say that clearly from just the 2 examples of the many stories that exist within the department, you can see that these are the kinds of situations that with the proper training, with the proper compassion, and with such an amazing department, it truly saves lives. And I can't be more proud of the work that each and every one of you have done to get us to this place. And you are to be commended, and we want to thank you for your service and for your commitment to saving and changing lives. On behalf of the City and County of San Francisco and the Board of Supervisors, it is truly my honor to honor you for your work and commitment to the city. Congratulations, and thank you for your continued service.
All right, officers, if you would mind stepping outside with President Breed, she'll give you the commendation and take a picture. The next supervisor we're going to be recognizing is Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much, colleagues. And today I wanted to share with you all an incredible nonprofit organization that is based out of the Sunset District, Sunset Youth Services. So please come on up. And I think it's so incredible to share all of this, all of the amazing staff with all of you, because in the Sunset we have only a handful of nonprofits that we could probably count on one hand. But Sunset Youth Services, you know, we just honored officers who went through crisis intervention training. And I'll just say that this group right here, they are crisis intervention people who work with their heart and souls at their very best to help so many young people who don't believe that they actually have a future, and they give a future to them. So Don and Ron, they are the executive directors. So if you can please come on up. I know Ron has to go to court soon to help some of our youth, but please come on up. So just really quickly, and you'll see on the screen SF Gov TV while I'm talking. So founded in 1992, they're on 25 years now, Sunset Youth Services. And as Don likes to tell it, it all began with a big red ball. So in 1992, Don and Ron had just recently moved to San Francisco and were eager to make a difference in the lives of local youth. So they started out at AP Giannini Middle School, which was in their neighborhood. And during the lunch period, Don and Ron wanted to go and help students and provide resources. And kids would come up to Don and Ron and ask, what are we going to play today? So what ensued was a series of school-wide lunchtime tournaments of dodgeball. And it was out of those daily dodgeball tournaments that the dream of Sunset Youth Services was born. So now, you'll see here staff. We have Delvin, Vicky, Natalie, Joel, Wendy, Maria, Mo, Raimo, Kimo, just so many people who, again, dedicate their lives to helping everyone. And so I loved some of the words that Joel, you wrote, actually, which is that many of the youth I've worked with over the past 12 years don't think they have a future. I don't know if I'll even live that long, as a consistent response to the idea of creating change in their lives. And the youth that we work with often come to us burdened with labels, but Sunset Youth Services feels more like a family than a program. So thank you, Joel. He is the Digital Arts Program Co-Coordinator at Sunset Youth Services. So just a little bit about their program. They have so many different components. They have digital arts training, where youth get to access and train in digital, audio, and film production, so they can express themselves, learn marketable skills, tell their stories, build confidence, and they practice writing, recording, editing, mastering their own music, films, animation, photography, and audio projects. And we have often partnered with Sunset Youth Services to provide sound and music for community events and street fairs. They have Upstar Records, which is a creative workforce development program where youth get hands-on experience recording, mixing, mastering, releasing, distributing, and promoting their own music videos. They have case management, of course, to help stabilize families and help them navigate the various systems. And they have a cafe run by Mo, called Mo's Cafe. It's an engaging program that provides youth with skills, knowledge, and abilities to become responsible individuals, but at the same time, they'll learn about how to shop for nutritious foods, safe handling, preparation, and provide food for each other. Now, Upstart Studios has been so amazing. We went to go and visit and shared this with the community as well, and providing high-risk youth the opportunity to develop songwriting and audio recording skills. And this program was expanded to take place inside the San Francisco Juvenile Justice Center, giving dozens of incarcerated youth a chance to explore writing, rapping, and engineering their own projects. Now, Dawn, she, as we mentioned, started working at Lincoln High School in AP Divinity and has always been a staunch community organizer in the sense that Ron, her husband, a professional musician who teaches bass guitar, coordinates a wide range of musical and artistic projects aimed at helping kids develop music skills, express themselves, and to build self-esteem. And oftentimes, Sunset Youth Services, I don't know how it is that you do everything you do. Sometimes you'll get very difficult calls. It might be that one of your youth has unfortunately passed away. It could be that maybe another agency needs to refer someone challenging to you, and you have never shied away from the challenge. And so I would say that Sunset Youth Services, we should really all give them a huge round of applause because they invest in our youth and invest so much more in them that many of the youth that they encounter or that they work with end up not reoffending. They have a huge success rate. I think it was, 92% success rate, which is incredible. So this is what you're looking at in terms of, yes, they might be based in the Sunset District, but what they do citywide for us is invaluable and measurable. I just want to thank you so much, and I hope my colleagues also understand the importance of your work. So I want to give you time to speak, and just thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang, Board of Supervisors. I don't know what to say. Excuse me. When we first stepped into the city and started working with kids, we noticed that there was a vacuum of services on the western part of the city, and we really started by focusing our attention there. In the last 25 years, we've expanded to be citywide, and we do focus our attention on 14 to 24-year-olds that have experienced trauma, many of them from day one, and have just live with experiences and things that are unimaginable to us. And at the same time, what we see over and over and over is the resilience that these kids have, that the strength and the beauty that they bring to the community when they're allowed to be at the table with everybody else. So part of what we do, and I think this year we had a great example with Playland, where we were building a park in our community with many other people, and our kids had a seat at the table with everybody else and got to help plan this park, got to help design some of the elements, and are now involved in keeping it up and closing it at night and things like that, because they're a resource. They're not just a problem. And the minute we start treating kids and young adults like a problem, they're going to be a problem, because they need to be at the table with everybody else. So I'm grateful for the opportunity San Francisco provides, that is provided by DCYF and so many other departments in the city and other funders with vision and support from Supervisor Tang's office and others, that San Francisco can be a leader in thought around kids in the juvenile justice and young adults in the criminal justice system, and really treating people like a strength and a resource and equipping them as such. So thank you so much. It's really these guys every day, all day. So thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations again. Our next commendation will be given by Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, President Bree. This is an accommodation and also in memoriam to a colleague of mine at the Golden Gate Bridge District Board, His name was Dietrich Stroll. And I'm doing this because he's such a beloved civic leader, and he passed away peacefully in his sleep last Wednesday at the age of 80. Diet, as we like to call him, served on the Golden Gate Bridge District Board since 1997, in which I had the privilege of serving with him for 4 years, and was in the first year of his 2-year term as president. Under his leadership, the board established a financial plan which paved the way to build the planned suicide barrier, a net that will save many lives in the future. Beyond his leadership on the board, I would like to echo my Bridge Board colleagues' sentiment that Diet was an amazing human being with great sense of humor, very accomplished, and an incredible ability to get things done. His family wrote a beautiful obituary in his honor, which I would like to read into the record. Dietrich Stroh was born in October 22nd, 1936 in Pasadena, California, and moved to Nevada when he was 4 years old. He was a first-generation American, son of immigrants, mother from Finland and father from Germany. Diet went on to the old Grant Elementary School, then on to Merriam, where his 3 daughters attended later. He then graduated from San Rafael High School, College of Marin, and earned an engineering degree from the University of Nevada, Reno. Post-university, he was in the U.S. Air Force Reserves based in Hamilton Field. An engineer by trade, Diet was also a beloved civic leader. From 1974 to 1980, he was the general manager of the Marin Municipal Water District. He was instrumental in solving Northern California's water crisis by putting a pipeline across the Richmond-San Rafael Bridge. A book entitled "The Man Who Made It Rain" described his experience with California's drought in 1976 and the leadership he provided during that time. Diet co-founded with his dear friend John Stubert and Stroh Engineering Group, later merging with CSW. He ran the business from 1980 until his last spring with the help of their third partner, Al Cornwell. Diet touched many people's lives through his work in the North Bay community as a community leader and builder. He had strong and influential voice, which also being a man of action. He was involved in numerous organizations, mostly notably the Golden Gate Bridge Board as president, the Fire Protection Board, the Nevada Chamber of Commerce, the Conservation Corps North Bay, the North Coast Railroad Authority, the Nevada Community Garden, the California Earthquake Authority, and the Downtown Nevada Theater. He was an avid reader, gardener, woodworker, and world traveler. His other passions included antique cars, the Santa Clara 49ers, Minions, Judge Judy, classic films, and the Oreo cookies in the trunk of his car that his wife forbid him to eat. He was as comfortable in his 3-piece suit as he was in his flannel shirt and holy jeans. Registered as a Republican, but a true progressive at heart, Diet always found a way to pull all sides together to create something of substance for the common good. He did this through humor, common sense, and perseverance. He never gave up. Diet Stroh was beautifully imperfect, a real man. He was preceded by his parents, Yin and Otto Stroh, his sister Martha Wells, and Karen Galway, and his second wife Margaret Berman Stroh. He is survived by his wife, Donna Gallagher Stroh, his three daughters, Christina Stroh, Jody Hunter, and Erica Antonio, his stepchildren, David and Donna Brown, and his first wife, Marsha McGillis. He is also survived by his 6 grandchildren, Tanner, Alex, Ben, Jackson, Nate, and Landon. Granddaughter, Megan Brown, and his 5 nieces and nephews. He will be greatly missed by his 4 cats, Max, Champagne, Boo, and Casey. In lieu of flowers, donations may be made to the Novato Theater at 936B 7th Street, number 132, Novato, California 94945. It was his dream to see the project completed. A celebration of Deet's life will be held on Tuesday, June 27th, 2017, from 4 to 7 at Pioneer Park in Novato. I want to thank the Golden Gate Bridge colleagues, President Bree, Supervisor Peskin, and Supervisor Sheehy for co-sponsoring this in memoriam. And I'd like to yield the floor to allow them, if they wish to say a few words. And also I'd like to allow a call up Donna Gallagher's role, also a public servant, is here today and would like to say a few words. Okay.
Oh, they're going to go first? Oh.
Go ahead.
Okay. A former politician, I'm going to promise you I won't be up here long. As you know, you never know what Deet would say in public. It's always a surprise. I'll try not to surprise you, but the 27th of June is our 7-year anniversary to do the celebration of an irreplaceable human being. So I know he would want me to tell you how much he loved working within the system and what you do, and how important it is. And most people don't know how important it is, but he did, and he loved the work. And, the governor called him the water man. You know that, don't you? It's in the book. But anyway, he still called him that, even though we're in Governor Brown 201. We're in the second phase, but that was back then. He was 80. I'm a nutritionist and got him off of all of his medications, 30 pounds, lost his weight. I want you to know he was in really good shape. You should wish for this. I'm going to tell you that right now. And it's going to be surprising that to you that have met him, that he really actually went the way he wanted. Much like his entire life, he said he didn't have a day he regretted. He got what he wanted most of the time. Now that Novato Theater has to be finished. That's the last thing we have to do. But he died like he wanted to, like his dad, exactly in his sleep. No pain, no Alzheimer's, no cancer, no nothing. You would dream for this, exactly like he wanted. So I just want you to have that peace in knowing that he was super just tired. He didn't know how to say no. And so he pretty much passed away from a big heart. And that is what he was when he was here. So I really appreciate you taking the time today to honor him. And I love you all. And he does too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Donna, for being here today. And we appreciate Deet's sense of humor and how he would always go out of his way to just spend some time with every member of the board. I enjoyed serving with him for the last 4 years, and he definitely will truly be missed. Thank you for being here today. Okay, colleagues, with that, I'd like to turn it over to Supervisor Ronan for the next commendation of the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have the incredible honor of honoring Rita Alviar on her 80th birthday. And so if you could come up, Rita. Rita Alviar is the founder and director of Mission Education Projects, Inc. And I'm honoring her today, as I mentioned, because a couple weeks ago she turned 80 and has been working in the Mission District for, get ready for this, 56 years. Rita began her career in education and community involvement in the early 60s by volunteering in her children's classroom and by getting involved as a member of the Bryant Elementary School's PTA. Her experience led her to a job with the San Francisco School District as a community relations assistant, organizing parents and the community to help children succeed academically despite economic and racial barriers. In the early 70s, Rita, along with a group of young intermission district parents, sat down at a kitchen table to figure out ways to help their children succeed academically, despite overcrowded and underfunded schools, despite language barriers and cultural exclusion. With her help, Mission Education Projects, Inc., otherwise known as MEPI, was founded through the Mission Coalition organization with the goal of enhancing the educational opportunities of the residents of the Mission District. MEPI has served as a crucial resource for the community, providing a safe haven for thousands of Mission District students and their families by offering free academic support, after-school enrichment, and family referrals. But MEPI is also so much more of that. You walk in there and you feel like it's part of these youth's extended family. It has such a nurturing atmosphere and such a familiarity, and literally generations of kids and siblings have gone through MEPI, and so it truly is an extended family to these Mission District kids. It is so special, and I'm just so grateful to Rita for all her work. Over 44 years, Rita continues her work as executive director of MEPI. She works with her incredible daughter, Lana, who is right behind her, who's carrying on this family's tradition of amazing work. MEPI has grown immensely and is proud to have several students who are attending and graduated from San Francisco City College, San Francisco State, UC Berkeley, and Stanford University. Through the years, Rita has been honored to receive many awards, not surprisingly, including a Congressional Award from the Honorable Nancy Pelosi and the Cesar Chavez Legacy Award. And I wanted you to know, Rita, that people in City Hall were buzzing and so excited about this award today that even Sheriff Michael Clausel behind you came up to me and came to my office to say, "You're honoring Rita. I'm so excited. I'm so glad that I get to be there." So word got out and spread quickly. And I know you have your incredible fan club over here in the corner today, if you all want to stand up. So on behalf of the Board of Supervisors and the entire Mission District, Rita, thank you so much for your service and for fighting for so long and so hard for the well-being of students and young people in the Mission District.
I'd like to thank everyone because without the Board of Supervisors, we would have had a hard time. We've been around a long time. We brought some of our young students. They're here. We want them to continue going off to school. We have a couple of kids going over to Stanford. We have 3 that graduated from Stanford. And a lot of people say, well, it looks kind of strange. You're in the Mission District. Not too many people go to Stanford. I said, it depends on the child. If the child wants to go and practice, they will and they'll do. And I always appreciate the Board of Supervisors, all of the Board of Supervisors, because if it wasn't for the Board of Supervisors, after all these years, we would not be existing. We would not. Federal funding were cut. But we were able. And we live in a Mission. We go to public school, and all our kids are doing very well. Again, I thank all of you. I thank many people for helping. And I thank everybody here.
Your family back there.
They have helped us some way, somehow.
Your family back there.
Okay. And then this is my family in the back. They're sitting very quiet.
But there's there.
And 24th Street are here. So we have them with us. And who?
Some of the kids back there.
And some of the kids back there. We like to expose the kids to a lot of education. We like to expose them to a lot of things that they can do. Besides staying in the mission, they can get out of the mission and learn. And I appreciate you guys give us an opportunity to speak. And thank you very much, Supervisor. We really appreciate you very, very much. Okay? So thank you very much.
And Supervisor Ronan, if you'd like to go outside with the group and you can join them for a group photo, that'd be great. Congratulations and thank you for your 56 years of service. Thank you. All right, folks, our last commendation for the day will be given by Supervisor Jane Kim.
Thank you, President Breed. And last but not least, I'd like to bring up Michael Ander to the podium. Michael, I'm really glad that you were able to join us here today at the Board of Supervisors. But it has been a sort of sad couple of months with the departure of Jackie Jenks from Hospitality House in the Tenderloin, and now you from Demiralac Academy. First of all, I just want to thank you so much for your work on behalf of our neighborhood and our city. For those of you that don't know Michael, Michael is the Vice President for Mission Advancement at Demiralac Academy, which is a Catholic school. Oh. Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Simply saying Demiralac Academy alone deserves applause. Demiralac Academy, for those of you that don't know, is a Catholic school that is devoted to ensuring that, quote, a neighborhood of residence and socioeconomic status does not determine a child's access to quality education or ultimate success in life. In other words, Demiralac provides quality education to working-class students and families in the Tenderloin through a scholarship-based program. And they serve so many of our families in the Tenderloin incredibly well. And if you're not familiar with the school, please look them up and please give them your support. You, Michael, are beloved by your students, but you're also beloved by so many of our community leaders in the Tenderloin. And it is such a rarity not just to have a school leader that is well known amongst their school community, but one that is almost as equally well known across the neighborhood because of your incredible and intimate involvement with community-based organizations, residents, families, of course, our police department as well. And so you've always gone above and beyond kind of the linear boundaries of your job to make sure that you're not just improving the lives of the children within the classroom boundary lines, but you're also improving the lives of their families outside in the neighborhood as well. You are also a community convener, and so many positive things have occurred in the Tenderloin under your watch. You were key in building the Golden Gate Block Safety Network, which is working to stop the illicit drug dealing, bicycle thefts, and homicides associated with what was formerly known as Big Boy Liquor Store, which is such a success story in the Tenderloin because it was one of the most problematic liquor stores in the neighborhood, and you're able to work with our office and then Captain Jason Chernus to go directly to the landlord, at which point we found out they were only on a month-to-month lease, and convinced the landlord to end their lease. And now, in a true success story, we were able to bring 826 Valencia to that corner, and it has dramatically changed that corner, and it's such an amazing makeover. You were also, through the Golden Gate Safety Network, you also helped institute and launch the Four Corners program that activates some of the most challenging intersections, including Golden Gate and Leavenworth, Turk, and Leavenworth, where both crime and traffic congestions have made for unsafe conditions for our children and families. And you also proactively supported and helped form our existing Safe Passages program, where community members volunteer to walk children to and after school programs, school sites, and a variety of other different places. And it's really amazing to see how much Safe Passages has grown to over the last couple of years. It now has a ton of volunteers, and it's so much fun actually to walk through the Tenderloin between 2:30 and 4 to see all of these adults out taking care of the kids crossing the streets. I want to also acknowledge your work on the Tenderloin Community Benefit District, our Tenderloin Health Improvement Partnership, of course, our Public Utilities Commission Tenderloin Light Project, which will soon be underway and will brighten up our neighborhood late at night, and also for your work with Market Street for the Masses, in particular helping us to negotiate the acquisition of 101 Hyde, a former post office that's particularly symbolic for Tenderloin residents because it was the only place that so many of our SRO residents could get their mail. When the U.S. Post Office decided to shut down that branch, it was really to, I think, the chagrin of so many of our residents. And then when we heard it was going to become market rate housing, I think it was even a double blow to our residents. But fortunately or unfortunately, the market rate developer wasn't able to build on that site, and we were able to convince Shorenstein through their project on the parking lot to acquire the site and then convey it to the city, and now it'll be 100% affordable housing for the Tenderloin neighborhood, which is incredibly exciting. Michael, I can't even believe you've been doing this for 25 years, but thank you for your 25 years working as a leader, as a teacher, but also a community advocate and an organizer. And I wish you all the best in your new job as the president of the Cristo de Rey de la Salle East Bay High School, where they were going to be so lucky to have you starting this July 1st. But again, I'm so sad that you'll be leaving. I know you won't be far, but thank you so much for your leadership.
Supervisor Kim and all of the Board of Supervisors, thank you so much for the commendation. I have thoroughly enjoyed working in the Tenderloin and in the city of San Francisco. Very much appreciate the collaboration across all of the departments in the city of San Francisco, as well as Supervisor Kim's office in particular. Just one thing that I wanted to mention. When I first began working in the Tenderloin, I was stunned at how invisible the children of the Tenderloin were. And a lot of my work initially was about amplifying and making visible the lives of children in the Tenderloin. And one of the things that I discovered in that work is there were a lot of people, and there are a lot of people in the Tenderloin who are invisible. And when I began to point out one kind of invisible group, all of the other invisible groups became more visible to me. And it was only my own thinking that got in the way of seeing people. And so I encourage you to remember that and to think of that and to recognize that sometimes our thinking gets in the way of seeing. And at the end of the day, the invitation that I extended to the people in the Tenderloin was just to be a good neighbor. That was my goal, was to be a good neighbor with them and to invite them to be good neighbors with me and with each other. And with that, I just want to thank you again for this commendation.
Is that Denise still clapping? Congratulations again, and thank you. Colleagues, that was our final commendation for the evening. or afternoon. Congratulations to all the honorees, and thank you all for your patience and for being with us today. And with that, we will go to our 3 p.m. special order. Madam Clerk, please call items 41 through 43.
Items 41 through 43 comprise the Board of Supervisors to convene in a committee of the whole. This hearing has been scheduled pursuant to a motion approved on April 18, 2017. This is a public hearing to consider conforming amendments to the Bayview Hunters Point redevelopment project area in file number 170414, or the subject matter of item 42, and the Hunters Point Shipyard redevelopment plan contained in file number 170415, the subject matter of item 43. This is also to implement Proposition O enacted by the voters on November 8th, 2016.
All right, colleagues, today we're sitting as a committee of the whole to discuss redevelopment plan amendments for both the Hunters Point Shipyard and the Bayview Hunters Point. We will now open this hearing. And with that, Supervisor Cohen, as the district representative, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, President Briggs. So, colleagues, thank you for hearing this item today. These items before us are relatively straightforward. They simply conform the Bayview Hunters Point and Hunters Point Shipyard redevelopment plans to Proposition O, which, as the clerk stated, was adopted by voters in November of 2016. Now, as you may remember, Prop O exempts new office space developed within the Hunters Point Shipyard and Candlestick Point Phase 2 project from Prop M, office development controls. Under state redevelopment law, the board is required to sit as a committee of the whole to consider the plan amendments, so here we are. Nadia Cisse from the Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure is here to make a short presentation and answer any questions and about the amendments that are going to be before us today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. And with that, Ms. Cisse, I know that you have a 5-minute presentation, and so we'll allow for questions after your presentation. We'll then open it up to public comment, and members of the public will have an opportunity to comment at that time.
Thank you, Supervisors. Thank you so much for hearing this item. Supervisor Cohen, thank you for sponsoring this item. With that, I'm Nadia Cisse, the Interim Director of the Office of Community and Investment and Infrastructure. SFGov TV, please, so we can turn to the presentation. As the Supervisor said, we're here today to talk about plan amendments related to Proposition O. On November 2016, the voters of San Francisco adopted Proposition O, the Hunters Point Shipyard Candlestick Point Job Stimulus Proposition. Proposition O exempts new office space to be developed within the Hunters Point Shipyard Phase 2 and Candlestick Point project from the annual office space development limitations set forth in the Planning Code, originally approved by the voters in 1986 as Proposition M. The redevelopment plan currently include references to Proposition M, and the plan amendments would amend the redevelopment plans to achieve consistency with Proposition O. Today, I'll go briefly over the Hunters Point Shipyard project. Background, I'll do a little overview on the Hunters Point Shipyard and Bayview Hunters Point redevelopment plans, talk briefly about Proposition O, and then plan amendments. To recap briefly, the Hunters Point Shipyard and Candlestick Point projects include 12,100 homes, 32% of which are below market. It includes over 352 acres of parks and open space, over 3.1 million in office space, producing more than 12,000 permanent jobs, about 885,000 in square foot of retail, 325,000 square foot of artist and community facilities, over 80 million in community benefit, as well as rebuilding of the Ellis Griffith public housing. It also includes new bus transit, rapid transit, express bus, and extending crosstown lines. The Hunters Point Shipyard Candlestick Point project spans portions of 2 redevelopment plans areas. Each project area has an associated redevelopment plan that governs development within each area. The Hunters Point Phase 2 falls within the portion of Hunters Point Shipyard Redevelopment Project Area, which is governed by the Hunters Point Shipyard Redevelopment Plan. Candlestick Point is Zone 1 of the Bayview Hunters Point Project Area, which is governed by the Bayview Hunters Point Shipyard Redevelopment Plan. So Proposition M, which was approved in 1986, was approved and sets the limit of 950,000 of square footage with regards to office development. It was also codified in the Planning Code, sections 320 to 325. Proposition O, which was approved last year, also exempts new office space within the development area, within the Hunters Point Shipyard and Candlestick Point, and it exempts it from Proposition O. This slide simply illustrates the affected area. Within the map, Phase 1 is excluded from the Proposition O, but this includes Phase 2 of the Hunters Point Shipyard and Candlestick Point. The redevelopment plan currently includes references to Proposition M. These references were not deleted by Proposition O itself because local ballot measures may not amend redevelopment plans. The plan amendments specify that Planning Code Section 324.1, which was added by Proposition O in 2016 and contains the exemption from the office limitations of Sections 320 to 325, applies to the Hunters Point Shipyard Candlestick Point project once the plan amendments are effective. The plan amendments will allow for office development already authorized under the redevelopment plans to be delivered more predictably, reliably, and efficiently, which will encourage economic and employment investment in project areas. Proposition O and the plan amendments do not change the amount permitted for office space in the Hunters Point Shipyard and Candlestick Point project. Rather, the plan amendments exempt office space development from Prop M's annual space limits, and these limits, depending on the pace of growth elsewhere in the city over time, could affect the timing of delivery of office development within the Hunters Point Shipyard project. The redevelopment plan and CEQA provide that the project may have up to 5 million square foot of office entitlement, and the DDA between the former SFRA and OCII, now OCII, and the Phase 2 developer provides for an up to 3.2 million in square foot of office development. The plan helps achieve, the amendments help achieve that the redevelopment plan's economic goals and objectives by ensuring that the pace of job-generating office development is not interrupted by the office development limitations, and the job opportunities and the associated economic and community benefits of the Hunters Point Shipyard project can be delivered in a timely manner. So depending on the pace of development in other areas of the city, the annual limit on the new office development set forth in Planning Codes 320 to 325 could impede the development within the Hunters Point Shipyard office development and delay revitalization and delivery of jobs to the Hunters Point Shipyard community. To date, here are some of the steps we've taken to propose these amendments. The Mayor's Citizen of Advisory Committee recommends the adoption of the plan amendments, and they did that early this year. The OCII staff reviewed the AIR for the project and as well as plan amendments and determined that the plan amendments require no additional environmental review. Further, the Commission on Community Investment and Infrastructure recommended the plan amendments, and the Planning Department has determined that plan amendments conform with the general plan. Because of the scope of the plan amendments, because they're minor and technical in nature, conforming the redevelopment plan to reflect passage of Prop O with no change to allowable land uses or any other Hunters Point Shipyard project elements that is required. And so this will allow the board, with board action today, it would allow for the documents to be more consistent pursuant to the requirement of California redevelopment law. With that, I'd like to thank the Board of Supervisors for hearing this item. OCI staff and the developer and I are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Asay, for your presentation. Seeing no names on the roster, I will open this up to public comment. If there are any members of the public who'd like to make public comment regarding these items, please come forward at this time. Mr. Gilberte, come on up. I see your hand. Come on up. All right, we'll wait.
Good afternoon, President Breed and members of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. My name is Linda Fedike Richardson, and for 18 years, I was the chair of the Land Use Planning and Transportation of the Bayview Hunters Point project area. And we came up with the Bayview Hunters Point Amendment. Prop M was enacted without any vision that Bayview Hunters Point, a long-neglected part of San Francisco, will never be developed. But the voters of San Francisco, thank you all. In November, you passed the ballot measure, and here we are. So basically, members of the community are here. It's taken out decades and decades. And Bayview Hunters Point, and with the development of the Hunters Point shipyard and Candlestick Point, it's basically the economic engine that is going to revitalize not only Bayview Hunters Point, but will provide jobs for the entire youth and adult in San Francisco. So we urge your passage of all these measures today. And again, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Joanne Abernathy, and I live in the Bayview Hunters Point neighborhood for over almost 50 years. And the reason why I'm coming up here to speak today is because I remember when Proposition M was put on the ballot for the voters. We voted and passed it, and it's been sitting. So I'm here today to say when it was voted on, it was under redevelopment. We all know redevelopment don't exist anymore. So now I'm here to say that we have young men that love to work, that's qualified to work, and that's ready to work in the Bayview under this new amendment. So we would like to see this new amendment passed and not sit on the table. We want to see these young men working, and we want to make sure that they get jobs and they're able to live in these housing. The proposition protects a lot of people in the Bayview to build market rate houses, to fund affordable housing. So that's what I would like to see in the Bayview.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Tom Gilberti, one of the first things you learn when you're in a wheelchair is that everything takes longer. And there's another thing in a wheelchair, it's called perspective. Meaning just a couple of months ago, I crossed 3rd Street by the baseball stadium and wheeled up 3rd Street. And then another time, coming back that time, I had to turn around and it was all downhill. And it was interesting because I saw all the things I missed because I had to concentrate on pushing up the hill. Another time, soon thereafter, I took a left and I went to Terry Francois Boulevard. And it's level. But then I look up to 3rd Street where they're building the stadium, the Warriors Stadium. I'm going and I'm looking, and it's level going up to the stadium. I mean, I thought it was a hill, but it really wasn't a hill. It was a slight grade. Perspective, being in a wheelchair, pushing it. But on Terry Francois, I'm looking, and it's all level. It's like floodplain. And I'm looking at the bay water, and it's like 6-7 feet lower. And I know that they're considering a 9-foot rise in water of the bay. And I'm thinking, are we planning for anything here? On television just recently, they showed the Netherlands and what they're planning. Everything is being built on stilts. And I look at Terry Francois, and I wonder if this is going to happen to the Hunters Point and the Bayview, if we're going to build it in a floodplain, in a wash, in a flood, and not do anything about it now and plan for it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Greeting London Supervisor President Breed, as well as all the other supervisors that's present in the audience. My name is Dedria Smith, and I'm a native of Bayview, Hunters Point. This has taken long enough, and I encourage you to approve the amendments so we can begin to rebuild the shipyard as an economic engine that can serve as a revitalization tool that enhances the economic future of Bayview, Hunters Point residents. This also brings more opportunity for jobs. The shipyard is the reason my ancestors came here. Let this be an opportunity for the generation to continue to be here and be able to work.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Gail Hampton. As a resident of Hunters Point, I actually...
Mama Hampton, I know you could speak louder than that.
Oh. Okay, I'm sorry. Good afternoon, everybody. As a resident of Hunters Point, I actually moved forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and the members of the Board of Supervisors. My name is Shimon Walton, Executive Director of Young Community Developers. And just here to make 2 points. One of the reasons we are really excited about Prop O, as you know, we have thousands of homes that are coming to Candlestick Point and the shipyard combined. And we want to make sure that the commercial businesses and economic engines are able to keep up with the pace of the residential opportunities. We don't want to have a whole bunch of new homes, a whole bunch of new people in our community without making sure that we have jobs and places for people and spaces for people to work as well. And then the last thing I just want to say, so that you know that we're not just being selfish, and this is not just beneficial to the southeast sector of San Francisco, but this is actually big for San Francisco as a whole. The jobs that will be provided will be for members of San Francisco, and it will also provide an opportunity for some of our businesses who have been displaced or who have been priced out of certain areas to have an opportunity also to bring their business into the southeast sector of San Francisco. So this is a win-win for San Francisco. It's definitely a win-win for us in the Bayview, Hunters Point, and District 10 community. And just thank you for all of you who supported Prop O, and we want to continue to make sure that we see this vision through all together. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Rodney Hampton, Southeast Consortium for Equitable Partnerships, Vice President. I'm here to say, the voters have, for Prop O, the majority have already spoken. June 2016, we told you, we requested, we worked with you, we gave you the foundation of what the community will build upon as being a part of this whole process. Prop M will slow this project to a crawl because this project of this size wasn't relevant at the time. And as a resident, I ask you to approve this amendment and move forward. We waited long enough. With this struggle that's been going on and folks that's eager to change their life, to engage in this whole process, in the government process, and in the workforce process, and just in the development of just cultivating this world and this community green. And we ask you to help push that and push it now and move this project so we can be a part of that and stay here in the city and county of San Francisco and help you to achieve your goals as well as we achieve ours. And thank you for today.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ms. Hill, a longtime resident of the Bayview, Hunters Point area, and I'm here to support the amendment, which is to bring the redevelopment plan into play. The plan, we feel, will bring more jobs for the residents of the Bay Area, thereby improving the economic standard to that said area. And we encourage you to move forward with this plan today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Praise the Lord. My name is Sister Stephanie, and I am in support of this project. San Francisco is in a changing state. It has been for a long time, and so has the community of Bayview, Hunters Point, and the shipyard. And I just think with the approval of such a big, large project, it's a shame that the community have been waiting for such a long time as they watch a lot of stuff being developed around them, and then such a large project that they're sitting there still waiting for this particular thing to just, to move forward so that they can continue to move forward with the rest of the city. And I'm just hoping that with the city that's been a fabric of change for such a long time, that today that you all just push forward and just remember that Bayview Hunters Point is also within that fabric, and you hold that thread today with your votes to mend that shipyard and Bayview Hunters Point's community and their youth within that thread to change. So weave them in today with your votes and make that change so San Francisco can be completely complete with your choices today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
It is always an honor to come before this board and the listening audience. I just was told by the Sheriff's Department not to sit back there in the media place where I've been sitting for some damn near 20 years because they want to see a pass. Okay, I get that. I'm cooperating. No more this guy. But I'm here also. I didn't know they was having a meeting till someone in the hallway said that they were speaking about Southeast Shipyard. Well, ladies and gentlemen, even though I come up here and speak a lot about the west side, where's the best side, south, I'm talking about the southeast now, but I'm from the west side. But I'm from San Francisco, where we all, as African American, black, and Negroes, however they want to put us, our population is way down here. So it really don't make a difference how we get up here and speak, because the city and county, from my understanding, going to do what they want to do anyway. Prime example, case in point, no offender to the Queen Bee. Check out Western Addition, the when last time you been to the Fillmore? My message to the 3 Street, don't repeat what they done to the Fillmore Street. That ain't funny. That's not funny at all. But I'm here to tell the truth. My name is Ace, and I'm on the case. I'm here to say I got to come out to the Bayview, but I got to crack this nut in the Fillmore first. I want y'all to know that we're going to have a big town hall meeting. The scheduled date has not been set yet, but y'all look for that. That's going to be the biggest town hall meeting that the city ever had. Now, Bayview, I'll be out there to help y'all. But right now, I'm monitoring everything that goes on. OCII, OEWD, and all them people that what they done to me in the Fillmore. Don't trust them. And all these people get up here and speak for them. Don't trust them. Read your history. Ain't no mystery. I'm dealing with some stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, President Breed and Board of Supervisors. My name is Patrick Ryan, and my company is a local contractor that's been privileged to work on the demolition of Candlestick as well as the Hunters Point Shipyard. And we've worked with YCD, City Build, ABU, and the local hiring agencies to put a lot of people to work. So really what my message today to you all is that the local hiring programs, the LBE contracting goals are working, and Lennar 5 Point has been an exemplary developer in making sure that that happens. There's a lot of projects that doesn't happen. So I really want you all to know that there's lives that are being changed. It's not a sexy or sensational story, so it doesn't get headlines, but I can tell you that a lot of young men and women who have come through the project have launched careers, literally. And as somebody who grew up with President Breed in the Western Addition and was on the other side of the tracks for a number of years. The trades literally changed my life and gave me an opportunity to have a business. So when you're talking about putting people to work, specifically in construction trades, it's a real thing. So any momentum that you guys can help this to really move at a pace that gets people out there with their tool bags on working is a really significant and very real thing for people. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors. I'd like to thank Madam President London Breed for the conversation that she's allowing us to have, and I'd especially like to thank Supervisor Malia Cohen for all of the hard work that she's done, all of the meetings, all of the briefings, and all of the things that she's been through her entire tenure on the Board of Supervisors to help this come to fruition. Lastly, I am first coming forward to encourage you to approve the amendments. This is absolutely important. When people talk about their waiting, it seems that there's been one thing after the other that has been halting the development. Redevelopment went away. Then we had a lawsuit. Then we had to look at what the amendments meant, Measure O. So we had to come, Measure M. So we had to come up with Measure O. So it's been a series of delays. I encourage you to go ahead and approve the amendments so that we can continue, as another speaker talked about, to be a part of the change that is occurring in this city. Also, so that we can get our market rate housing sold to begin to build the affordable rate housing. This is absolutely important. It's paramount, and it's also speaking to the mitigation for community residents that have endured so much environmental racism over the years to be able to come back and live in their community that is clean, to be able to work in end-use jobs that afford them a career. So I thank you in advance for approving the amendments. Good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak with you, President Breed, Supervisor Cohen, Supervisor Asha Sapai, and the rest of you wonderful supervisors. I am going to be much briefer in this presentation, at least more brief than when I received the commendation from Supervisor Safai, and President Breed had to remind me that I didn't have a half an hour to accept that commendation. Thank you. All right, so I just wanted you to know that I'm Dr. Veronica Honeycutt, and I'm the chair of the CAC for the shipyard. I'm a member of the Legacy Foundation and the IC. And most importantly, I'm a proponent of Prop O, along with Board of Education President Shaman Walton and former Supervisor Sophie Maxwell. So I am delighted that the public voted to approve Prop O, and for all the comments, positive comments that you have heard from individuals today. Please approve this measure and move the project forward. Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Otto Duffy. I live in the neighborhood right over here. I have the highest respect for the person who sits in this first seat right in front of the public speaking podium. I did some getting out the vote and was in voting groups in my neighborhood and over this last election and self-education. And what I noticed was that most of the white people kind of voted against this item. And the people who are many of my colleagues and people I feel, I like, of a more richly complected, voted for this proposition. And the suspicion I have about it is who works in offices, white people and Asians. How is that going to help, a disadvantaged community? So I know I'm kind of interested in what the conversation is here, if it's at all controversial or what the vote is going to be. But I know that you are going to add enough regulations and rules to this item to make sure that those votes, that those jobs go to black people and people from the Bayview. I know you're going to do it.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the public that like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is closed and this hearing has been held and is now filed. And seeing no names on the roster, Madam Clerk, on items 42 and 43, please call the roll.
On items 42 and 43, Supervisor Ronan. Aye. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Those ordinances passed unanimously on the first reading. Congratulations. All right, Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
Supervisor Ronan, you're first to introduce new business.
Sure. I just wanted to say that I'm honored to be co-sponsoring a hearing request that Supervisor Kim will speak more to in a few minutes. But it's a hearing on women's experiences in homeless encampments. Do you want to speak to it first? Okay, I'll be re-referred.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Supervisor Safai.
I'm proud to be co-sponsoring something with President Breed today, but I'll let her talk about that.
You want to be re-referred as well?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Sheehy.
Yes, for roll call today, I have a few items. Earlier this year, I introduced an ordinance co-sponsored by Supervisor Cohen to establish a cannabis department and commission. We heard from some who asked if there was a better, more cost-effective way to move forward. Mayor Lee's budget contains this better way. The Office of Cannabis, managed by the city administrator. The office is included in the June 1st budget, and I want to thank the mayor for that. Now that we're in the board phase, I'm introducing the substitute ordinance so that we can work together at the budget committee to get this up and running. The substitute ordinance provides for an office with a right of appeal to the Board of Appeals. As you know, Prop 64 allows for adult use of marijuana in California effective January 1st, 2018. I look forward to working with all of you to make sure San Francisco is ready for implementation. Then, second, I'm calling for a hearing on the closure of the Hall of Justice. From 1998 to 2000, I worked at the Hall of Justice as a victim advocate for same-sex victims of domestic violence and hate crime. And while the work was incredibly rewarding, one of the biggest challenges was working in an environment that was unhealthy, unsafe, and where you regularly saw rats or mice at work. It got so bad that they even brought in cats to catch the mice. 15 years later, the problems are worse. Sewage leaks from inmate cells into the district attorney's office. Power outages shut down daily operations. Earlier this year, when we approved the capital plan, we said we'd look for a faster, more effective, more cost-effective solution. Harvey Rose Associates, our budget and legislative analyst, estimates that leasing for administrative functions will save $95 million over 10 years. During the budget, I will work to deliver on this plan, and again want to thank the mayor for including funding in his June 1st budget. I'm also calling for a hearing to track progress and get updates from real estate on the status of new leases, which ultimately will require board approval. I know we'll have a robust hearing next week on jail re-envisioning. Let's make sure we can look out for everybody in the Hall of Justice and close it down as quickly as possible. And I think this may be one that I punt as well. I was going to speak about your resolution on the Paris Accords. President Breed, I should wait till you introduce it, I think that's how we're doing this. And then lastly, earlier this year, I joined Senator Wiener and Phil Ginsburg as we reopened Upper Noy Courts, a great place to play tennis and basketball in District 8. At the time, we talked about how to improve tennis courts citywide. That's why I'm pleased to introduce an accept and expend for citywide tennis courts today, putting $864,000 to work across San Francisco. San Franciscans for Sports and Recreation is a nonprofit founded in 2015 by tennis enthusiasts who saw spaces to play tenants disappearing in our city because of development. They put their money where their words are. This grant will resurface many tennis courts across the city, and there remains more work we have to do. The private partnerships at Rec and Park make a difference as we have limited funding here in the city, and the grant is appreciated. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy. Supervisor Tang. Okay. Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, as many of you know, we are facing a child care shortage in San Francisco. Currently, we have roughly 2,600 infants and toddlers on the waiting list for affordable child care. Reliable, quality child care is essential for parents and guardians who want to pursue education and employment opportunities. It is also critical for the growth and the development of infants and toddlers ages 0 to 5. As featured in a recent New York Times article, a recent economic study showed that high-quality child care had a huge return in investment. In the study, the benefit was $7.3 for every dollar spent. Child care providers already face a number of challenges in this difficult market. State investments fluctuate, resulting in less wages for child care workers. The cost of doing business gets astronomically more expensive every year. It is also increasingly more difficult for child care centers to find affordable spaces to rent or own. Even if a provider could find an affordable space for center, they have to go through great lengths to improve the facility to meet all state safety and open space requirements. And of course, on top of all these state requirements, we also have local zoning requirements that add additional costs that can be arduous for nonprofit child care organizations. The legislation I am introducing today would make child care facilities principally permitted in all zoning districts with a few exceptions: production, distribution, and repair areas. We have also heard from many residential developers that they find it challenging to support a child care center on their properties because of additional open space requirements. This ordinance would help to alleviate this problem by allowing residential developments to use existing minimum open space requirement to meet child care open space requirements during weekday business hours. The space would still meet all state licensing requirements. In order for our city to be a family-friendly for the social, cultural, and economic fabric of our growing community, it is imperative that we invest and support access to high-quality child care. I want to extend my appreciation to the Planning Department staff for their work on this legislation, especially Sheila Nikolopoulos and Ann Brask and Sue Exkline. And I want to recognize the support we received from the Office of Early Care and Education, particularly Graham Dotson. We need to make it easier for providers to operate here so that they can continue serving families in every neighborhood. I'm introducing this not only because of what people have told me, but also as a person that operated his own organization and opened up 7 child care centers. I understand the difficulties it goes through in trying to open one up, and the open space requirement, which is in many places in San Francisco, is almost impossible to achieve. So because of that, I'm pretty excited about putting this ordinance through. And I also want to thank my co-sponsor, Supervisor Katie Tang, who has also been championing many policies to further support new and emerging families in San Francisco. I am excited about all the prospects for San Francisco to become an even stronger place for families with children. And honored, I have so many of you on the board who share the same sentiment. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Breed.
Thank you. Colleagues, today, along with all of the members of the Board of Supervisors, We are introducing a resolution affirming San Francisco's commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement. Last week, President Trump pulled the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement, and today I'm submitting a resolution reaffirming the City and County of San Francisco's commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement. We will not stand silent as the Trump administration continues to deny the reality of climate change and turn back the clock when it comes to environmental protections. In just over 4 months in office, President Trump has made a number of alarming and potentially destructive decisions, but few could have the lasting impact and capacity to do as much serious harm as his decision last week to pull the United States out of the Paris Climate Agreement, which binds nations together in the fight to reduce harmful emissions that are wreaking havoc on our planet and its climate. In San Francisco, we have a long history of leading on environmental issues, and this is a time when we need leaders to step up. San Francisco has never shied away from ambitious action on climate change, even in the absence of federal leadership. We know that strong action on climate change is good for the planet and it's good for the economy. Since 1990, San Francisco has reduced its greenhouse gas emissions by 28%, while the city's population grew by 19% and the local economy by 78%. We have reduced harmful greenhouse gas emissions because of our bold leadership and innovative policies to advance our climate action strategies, like something I was proud to lead, including Clean Power SF, San Francisco's community choice aggregation program, delivering cleaner energy to residents and businesses. It's the single most important thing we can do to combat climate change. Passing the toughest styrofoam ban on the sale and distribution of polystyrene foam products in the country. Approving an industry-funded safe medicine disposal program to provide residents with convenient drop-off locations for unused and unwanted medicines. San Francisco has been a leader, and other cities look to us as an example to follow. That's why it's so important for us to do this today. To do on the local level what our president is failing to do on a national level. Last week, in the wake of President Trump's decision to pass on the Paris Climate Agreement, San Francisco joined more than 211 U.S. mayors representing more than 54 million Americans in reaffirming their city's commitments to climate action as a part of the mayor's National Climate Action Agenda. We commend and support that agenda. As cities, we fight for what we believe in and to protect our future, our world's future, in every way that we can. We will not listen to ignorance nor sit idle in the face of irresponsible leadership, or I would say a lack thereof. In San Francisco, we will not stop doing what we do best, which is being the leaders and caring for the environment. We're not going to stop now, and the Paris Climate Agreement was an agreement among nearly every nation in the world, including ours. It is beyond embarrassing that we backed out of this agreement. Trump's decision is a disaster that poses serious repercussions for health of this planet, the health of communities around the world, and to our relationships with other nations. Locally, we must continue to pursue bold and ambitious climate action and policies here in the board chambers, and working together, we must make sure San Francisco remains at the forefront of this fight. And we will only step up, we will work harder, and we will do more. Thank you to each and every one of my colleagues for supporting this resolution and agreeing to co-sponsor this today. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. Would you like other members who are interested in speaking after you, Madam President, to go before? Supervisor Sheehy?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, President Breed, for bringing this forward. I'm very pleased to co-sponsor the resolution and wanted to speak briefly on the board's commitment to climate change. With Supervisor Ronan, I serve on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, and we took a major step last week by passing part of Regulation 12, Rule 16, that caps greenhouse gases from Bay Area refineries. As potentially dirtier crude oil comes into this region for processing, we must make sure to protect our air quality. We're having a final vote on the rest of the rule, which affects pollution from particulates, which have dire health risks for people living near the refineries. We must make sure to protect our air quality. San Francisco continues to lead not only across the world, but right here at home and in our own region on climate science.
Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy.
Were there any other members? I think Supervisor Safai and Supervisor Ronan wanted to also speak. They've already gone in roll call. Supervisor Ronan?
Well, after Supervisor Kim speaks.
On the other issue, not this one, right?
That's
okay, sorry about that. Supervisor Safai.
Just wanted to add on, I think that Supervisor Breed, thank you for your leadership on this, and Supervisor Sheehy, I think you both pretty much hit the majority of the points. I think it's amazing that in this day and time, the United States has been a leader in climate control issues and greenhouse gas emission controls, that our president would take a tremendous step backwards. But here in San Francisco over the last decade plus, even more, we've been a leader, particularly as it relates to waste diversion is another area, and I know you mentioned that briefly, but we have been one of the leaders in the United States on waste diversion, and we are meeting all types of goals to not send things to landfill and emit more greenhouse gas emissions. But again, a sad day for our country. I think it provides an opportunity for California to step forward, being the 6th largest economy in the world, to set a new agenda for the United States, and hopefully very soon we will be a part of that climate control measure again. But thank you for your leadership, President Breed.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. Supervisor Yee?
Thank you, President Breed. I'll join the chorus. Thank you for your leadership in this, and I'm really happy to be a co-sponsor of this legislation. And I want to say that it's things like in San Francisco, Clean SF, Clean Power SF, that makes it possible for us to put our is it money where our mouth is? Is that the saying? Well, you know, I'm glad to be able to say that I'm a super green consumer of Clean SF, and hopefully everybody else in this room will join me.
Thank you, Supervisor Yee. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Madam President. And back to the official order, Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much. Well, colleagues, Colleagues, I'm introducing a fairly simple and straightforward resolution to support Senate Bill 491, authored by Senator Steve Bradford. And this bill would begin the process of establishing local enforcement of California's employment discrimination protections, or the Fair Employment and Housing Act. As you may already know, the Fair Employment Housing Act is a statute that prohibits discrimination in our workplaces, but it doesn't say whether or not municipalities like San Francisco can participate in the enforcement of the act. Any form of discrimination, particularly that which is found in the workplace, robs people of their dignity, of their health, and their financial stability. And during these national divisive times, we're fortunate to live in California, where protections against employment and housing discriminations were established over 50 years ago. However, there is still a large group, and many Californians do not know the rights established by the Fair Employment and Housing Act that exists, and they don't know how it can be enforced. More specifically, we know discrimination in hiring remains a persistent challenge for African American workers. For instance, African Americans are underrepresented in supervisorial and managerial positions and are about half as likely to hold them than compared to their white counterparts. In fact, 8% of African American workers are in management positions compared to 15% of white workers. So these statistics are staggering, and frankly, there's no coincidence. And there's a very much needed enforcement element that's related to the anti-discrimination laws. To this end, this bill would require that the Department of Fair Employment and Housing convene a work group to determine the feasibility of authorizing local government entities such as San Francisco to also enforce anti-discrimination statutes, including the Fair Employment and Housing Act. I want to thank Supervisor Sheehy for his co-sponsorship on this resolution. And colleagues, I look forward to your support on this item on the adoption without committee reference agenda for next week. Thank you. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Farrell. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Fewer.
I submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Kim.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and thank you to my co-persons and colleagues whose comments I look forward to hearing on this issue. Last Friday, I went on a tour of some of the encampments in the district that I represent along Division and in Mission Bay, led by staff member of Coalition on Homelessness and encampment residents. Encampments, as we all know, is an issue that impacts our entire city and certainly is an issue that every district supervisor is dealing with. While encampments are clearly not safe or appropriate housing for anyone, what struck me on Friday was the number of women I met while on this tour. My unofficial guide was a camper, a self-identified queer woman and disabled firefighter who has applied to over dozens of housing opportunities. While it's clear that she wanted to move out of the encampment and into housing, she also knew that as a leader in her community, that she was also someone who was able to protect members of her encampment. A quote from Dave Gloss, a clinical outreach coordinator for Operation Safety Net, part of Pittsburgh Mercy Health System and Trinity Health, said, "When you see a homeless woman on the streets, it's not, has she been raped? It's how many times?" When I see a homeless woman, I often think of this question. The National Network to End Domestic Violence reports that more than 90% of women who are homeless have experienced severe physical or sexual abuse at some point in their life, oftentimes before they end up on our streets or in our shelter system. A study sponsored by the National Institute of Drug Abuse showed that 41% of randomly selected sample of 460 women staying in homeless shelter had been sexually abused by an adult before age 18. Sexual violence is a cause of homelessness, but it also is a consequence of homelessness and living on our streets and in shelters. And in San Francisco, we can't allow violence against women to take place anywhere. And homeless women and non-binary individuals need us to take action however we can. We have to talk about the issue of sexual violence against women in particular because the inclusion of sexual assault and domestic violence stakeholders in our discussions and strategies around homelessness has been largely absent from public discourse, especially the voices of our survivors. I want to explore options for a safe camping site specifically set aside for women or a navigation center designed for women. Nothing should be off the table when it comes to eradicating sexual violence. I want to thank my co-sponsors for this hearing, Supervisor Ronan, who has been really a leader in figuring out how to transition individuals from encampments to navigation centers in our district, Supervisors Fewer, Tang, Cohen, and Breed. I appreciate and want to thank each of you for your support. Now that women are the majority on the Board of Supervisors, I think it is incredibly important that we take on this very important issue. And the rest not yet. But before I submit, I also want to submit an in memoriam for an incredible woman here in San Francisco, Joyce Hayes. Today for our honorarium, I'd like to request that we end our meeting in honor of a beautiful, loving, compassionate, and profound spirit who passed away, who is a mother to many, and by many, 87 children that she has fostered in her life, and a part of the Glide Memorial Church family. Joyce June Hayes was truly a selfless person, informally raising dozens more beyond the 87 that she officially fostered in her life. She was born in St. Louis, grew up in Chicago, and as a teen in Chicago showed a passion for social justice and was an early member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, also known as SNCC. Joyce eventually moved to San Francisco with her 3 biological children and soon began taking in additional children who had nowhere else to go. Her compassion wouldn't allow her to look the other way when she saw children with no families, no homes, none of the love or resources that so many of us, fortunately, get to take for granted. In 1971, she began a children's program at Glide Memorial, providing the children of the Tenderloin with food and a safe place to play. Over the years, the program grew and in 1991 expanded into the Janice Murgatani Family, Youth, and Child Care Center. The center is now a licensed care facility for children's ages 2 to 12 and serves more than 500 youth every year. As Janice Murgatani stated, Joyce was the heartbeat of the children's program because her arms were open to every child and parent that needed help. In 2001, Ms. Hayes was given the Congressional Angels in Adoption Award in Washington, D.C., nominated by Representative Nancy Pelosi. She died at the age of 73, and her daughter, Jane Rovniak Morgan's Hill home, and her legacy lives on in the lives of every child she helped, many of those children that are growing up in the Tenderloin neighborhood. Joyce, we will remember you for your love and kindness, which reverberated in the smile in her eyes. And the rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. And Supervisor Ronan, the same privilege.
Thank you. I want to thank Supervisor Kim for her leadership on these issues in general. And oftentimes in my district, when I've had difficult conversations with my residents who are scared about another navigation center opening in our district, I always point to District 6 as having the vast majority of both shelter and navigation center beds in our city. So I just want to thank you for taking that on. I think this issue about women's experiences in tent encampments is a very important one to look at, and I'm glad we're going to be having a hearing on it. And I look forward particularly to understanding the issues that homeless women are experiencing, including sexual violence, but also bring domestic violence experts in from the community who have not been as engaged in the conversation about how we should be addressing this crisis and protecting women, and especially addressing the multiple levels of trauma that so many women are unfortunately facing on the streets. The conditions in the encampments are just untenable and unsafe for everyone. But especially for women who are vulnerable. On the contrary, navigation centers are a safe, proven, effective way to get people off the streets and out of encampments. Not every district has a concentration of homelessness in tent encampments like District 6, District 9, and District 10 do. But every district in this city has a moral obligation to help women who are fleeing domestic violence and end up on the streets. Navigation centers address citywide issues like domestic abuse, mental health, issues that youth and teens, seniors, and people struggling with substance abuse are facing. And it's a logical next step for districts that to step up who want to do their part to address our homeless crisis by looking at these particular issues that intersect with homelessness. I'm very proud to be opening a temporary navigation system center on June 19th in my district. We're looking for a site for a permanent navigation center when that 9-month center closes. And I hope that we continue this discussion at this Board of Supervisors and that the rest of my colleagues step up to do the same. With that, I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Ronan. Any other members? Okay, then we'll move to Supervisor Peskin.
Submit.
Okay, thank you. Any other members wanted to be re-referred? Supervisor Safai on any other matters? Okay. Madam President, I believe that concludes the introduction of new business.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please read public comment.
At this time, the public may now address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, to include the April 18th, 2017 Board meeting minutes and the April 25th, 2017 Board meeting minutes, and items 49 through 50 on the without reference to committee agenda. Public comment is not allowed when an item has been previously subject to public comment at a board committee. Pursuant to the board's rules of order, please direct your remarks to the board as a whole and not to individual supervisors and nor to the audience. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time to testify. And if you would like to display a document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you would like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
Thank you. First speaker, please.
And Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-law, who married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed unto his sons-in-law as one that jested. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and daughters that are here, lest thou be swept away in the iniquity of the city. But he lingered, and the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be swept away. And Lot said to them, Oh, not so, my Lord. Behold now, thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest the evil overtake me, and I die. And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city of which thou hast spoken. Hasten thou, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot came unto Zoar. Then the Lord caused to rain on Sodom and Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked out toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the land went up as the smoke of a furnace. The end of this month will be 7,770 days from the 70th Jubilee. 7,770 days from the end of the times of the Gentiles, which was 360 sabbatical cycles from the destruction of Jerusalem.
Thank you for your presentation. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Andrew Yip. Sage King, an ideal ruler who, by combining the virtue and wisdom of a sage with the power of a king, could achieve perfection in national management. Political leaders must having of true principle and upright spirit in one's heart. One must apply true self-nature and true destiny to actualize mercy and love for accomplishment of credits and works, of virtues and works, and of divine preaching for worthy rescue. Political leaders should apply holy mercy for helping our people in their days of difficulty, so as to turn circumstances of dangers toward forever security. People can seek true happiness and true perfection with great success. Being loyal to heavenly mission, one must engage on wide pathways to promote the well-being for our people. A career of heavenly mission for political leaders must work hard in making success of livelihood for our people, of civil rights for our people, and of national unity for our people. The discipline of outright studies, personal cultivation, establishment of supreme virtue, and worthy maintenance must be enforced, so worthy leaders can actually fulfill the duties of heavenly mission for making true success of people's liberty, civil justice, and social prosperity for all. By applying Sage King's virtues, we can expect of heavenly glory and eternity. Upon sitting with contemplation, one will be fully awakened to plan on one's personal cultivation in achieving great success of world mission for the ultimate rescue of our people on the safe shore of a peaceful kingdom. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, supervisors, members of the public. Yes, I would like to start by saying if I had a summer home in San Francisco and a winter home in hell, I'd spend all my summers in my winter home. Reason for this is I think that certain new breed of supervisor has somehow lost sight of the real imperative agendas that are happening not only in this city but in the world in general. A lot of attacks on innocent people, a lot of hate that's being perpetuated by religious drunks, and it doesn't seem to get any attention or condemnation by this Board of Supervisors. So maybe a little less texting and a little more listening to what the public need. and also a little bit more respect for the rules and regulations here in City Hall. I feel like, all of a sudden it's priority for the supervisors to do things their way instead of doing things the right way, which is following the rules, waiting your turn, and not just bursting into committees or hearings and setting all the other agendas aside so that you can speak first, which is what I have seen in some of these committees. It's almost like a superiority that the supervisors have adopted. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Salah Hakuya Chandler. And I've lived in San Francisco for 35 years. And those who know me and those who don't know me, I'm the mother of Yalani Chinyamarende, who was assassinated. The 4 boys, the quadruple homicide that happened in Hayes Valley, January the 9th. 4 African-American boys shot to death. Now, my son was only 19 years of age. He was just simply trying to cash his check, working at Benihana's Japanese restaurant. And I came here for one reason, to speak concerning an event that London Breed know that me and my business partner are putting on June 25th. We have been contributing to this community for 15 years, working with children, youth. I've been working with mothers, abandoned mothers, who have lost their children to homicide and taken them to our ranch in Valley Springs, Calaveras County, taking children 3-4 times a year out of the city, the great city that you're talking about, of the environment issues, of air quality and green and all the words you use, yet it's an environment of homicides that is happening here, not only in San Francisco, but in the United States of America. But I'm going to speak from my heart. I am appalled at what I'm seeing here. We sit here patiently for how many hours to listen to you attentively. I see Malia Corns getting up and down, getting her gum, talking, laughing. This man has left. He's right there. All of you are looking at your computers, not looking attentively at the people that have sat here humbly for whatever reason you think their mental issues are. You have absolutely no respect. I was coming here to ask for assistance for the work that we're doing, but it's obvious it's Judgment Day.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Hakuya. Thank you, Ms. Hakuya. Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Hakuila. Thank you for your comments. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you very much for your words. They mean a lot to the community, although they don't always mean a lot to the supervisors. And I'm not speaking
Speak for yourself, sir.
I am speaking.
We have ears, we can hear.
I am speaking for myself, and I'd like you to not interrupt me when I'm speaking my opinion at this microphone.
Okay.
So please keep quiet.
And
sir, first of all, let's talk about, this is Pride Month.
Sir, I did pause your time for that interruption.
Oh, thank you so much. I do appreciate that,
giving you back
ma'am.
those seconds.
So let's talk about Pride Month. Pride Month is a very important thing in the LGBTQI LMNOP community because it's how we got our rights and freedom over the years when we were being killed and murdered and raped and subjected to torture and reparative therapy and all this other crap. But there is a supervisor here who has affiliated themselves with a hate group here in San Francisco. And the LGBT hate group that has been outed for 20 years by the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Pacific Institute of Justice. According to a quote in the San Francisco Examiner, the Pacific Justice Institute has been, quote, remarkably successful in getting its message of hate to Supervisor Kathy Tang. For 2 decades, the PJI has been anti-domestic partner, anti-marriage equality, anti-transgendered rights, and pro-reparative therapy. Why is this Board of Supervisors not called out on the floor by gay people on the board when they affiliate themselves with a hate group? A hate group of LGBT people. And I am quoting from the San Francisco Examiner. Remarkably, it's getting its hate message very, very successfully propagated by Kathy Tang.
Thank you for your comments. And next speaker, please. Before Mr. Gilberti speaks, are there any other members of the public who would like to address the board in general public comment? Please step up. Thank you. Mr. Gilberti.
Yeah, across the country, across the world right now. Trump, does anyone believe anything he's going to say anymore? Is he closer to an abomination than anything else? The Democratic State Convention was just held recently. They want to become relevant. Well, for them to become relevant, they better find a direct plug to allow independents to be part of their party. If they want to win and see what's part of reality, they have to let independents into their party. Let the people of the neighborhoods and the communities promote their leaders, not the party promote their leaders. Would we consider our politics healthy or rotten? We have what we have in Washington. Donald Trump won the presidency with 27% of the registered voters of this country. The mayor across the hall, Lee Run, won his position with 25% of the registered voters of this country, of this city. Disappointment. State of politics, are we closer to healthy or are we closer to rotten? Building homes for people that live here, building buildings on Francois Street that are vulnerable to any sort of water rise. Smart development, smart living, healthy communities, that should be our goal. I don't think we're heading in that direction, but we did a lot of housing today, and that was very good. Bye.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Madam President, my name is Otto Duffy. I live in the neighborhood nearby here. I rise for the second time. I apologize for double dipping. What I would say is that a very small subset of professions and trainings that ever is going to sit in these seats or ever gets elected in any kind of numbers to elected office. And I guess maybe that's why I come up here to talk, because I've been in several professions and they're all significantly underrepresented at this body. And personally, I would not want to do it either. And the reason is the same reason I quit football. It hurts too much. So, what I point out to you is that it's almost impossible to get to 50% renewable energy. It's a huge uphill battle. So no, this city is not doing enough. And in fact, most people think that we have to get to at least 75% renewable within 100 years. So we have to go beyond that. And there's a lot of consideration that deep hydroelectric actually creates more greenhouse gas than it saves. So it's a huge battle. And we're going up against attitudinal inherencies that have existed for decades and centuries, maybe even hundreds of thousands of years. And on the flip side of that, of course, I recognize that governments and culture and people only move at a certain kind of pace. And I recognize that if we go too fast, that's not going to work either. I just want to share that with you.
Thank you for your comments. Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to make public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Madam Clerk, can you read the items for adoption?
Madam President,
Supervisor Sheehy?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment about the incredibly offensive statements that were made by one of the public speakers about my colleague. They're absolutely untrue. I'm personally offended that those comments were made.
Sir, you're out of order.
My experience has been phenomenal with the supervisor, and it's really not okay. It's not appropriate for people to really slander an outstanding individual who is devoting an incredible amount of her time to being an outstanding public servant.
Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy. Madam Clerk, please read the items for adoption without reference to committee.
Items 49 through 50 are being considered for immediate adoption without committee reference. A single roll call vote may enact these items. If a member disagrees, we can have an item severed and have it considered separately.
Seeing no names, Supervisor Peskin?
Yeah, could I sever item 49?
Okay. So on item 50, please call the roll.
On item 50, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen, aye. Supervisor Farrell. Farrell, aye. Supervisor Fewer.
Aye.
Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
The motion is approved unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call item number 49.
Item 49 is a resolution urging the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development to develop a pilot program to create affordable rental housing for educators of the San Francisco Unified School District.
Supervisor Peskin?
Yeah, I'm fine with the content of the resolution. I just, not to put too fine a point on it, I don't really understand how the chief executive is urging himself to do something. It just seems odd on its face. It's just a bizarre thing. How does the mayor urge himself? That's it. I'll vote for it, but it just seems goofy.
Thank you, Supervisor Peskin. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you. I will let the mayor's office answer that, but as a co-sponsor, I just want to say that I am very supportive of us trying to find other creative ways to provide housing for teachers. And, you know, I know you all know in the press it's been identified that that first site might be in the Sunset District. And so I'm very committed to working with our community members so that neighbors are involved from start to finish. And I'm sure the mayor's office will be involved as well to make this happen. So I think that, in my opinion, this resolution probably just sends a message, I think, to our school district and MOHCD that we want to get this done quickly, sooner rather than later. So, colleagues, thank you for your support of this.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang. Supervisor Kim.
Just to help with language, although that's not in the version that I read, but if it is in the resolve clause, maybe we can move to the whereas clause that the mayor is very supportive of this, and then resolve it with the Board of Supervisors urging the director. The version I have says the Board of Supervisors, but maybe there's a more recent version that I haven't read.
So, Mr. Givner, you want to respond to that?
I think the issue that Supervisor Peskin was raising is that the mayor is the lead sponsor of the resolution rather than the actual text of the resolution.
Thank you. Supervisor Ronan?
Sure. I have added myself as a co-sponsor to this resolution and am excited by the city's collective interest in this subject because it is such an important one. My daughter is about to enter the public school system in August, and I seriously worry whether or not she'll have a permanent teacher in her classroom. I think it's an issue that all parents of public school students worry about, and it's outrageous, quite frankly. And while I'm excited that we finally, come out and identified a specific site with a specific amount of money attached to starting a brick and mortar project, which we desperately need to do. We're looking at under 150 units for a school district that has over 3,000 teachers and paraprofessionals, many of whom need housing, and this is just a drop of the bucket. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you on additional measures so that we can actually attack this issue at scale.
Thank you. Supervisor Safai.
Yeah, just to add on to the points that were made, we, as Supervisor Ronan said, as a parent in public schools, there are over 22 schools in our city right now with a teacher shortage. And the cost of housing, there are some programs. We co-sponsored a hearing I think it was about 2 months ago now, Supervisor Ronan, on educator housing that included all individuals that are in the public school system that are dealing with this crisis. But educators in general, whether they're in the public school system or not, in the private school system and parochial as well, we do have a severe shortage. And I think we all share in the belief that teachers play a particular role in our communities. They take on an added significance to adding to the value of our communities. So the idea of this resolution is essentially to move forward and elevate the issue so we can continue coming up with creative solutions, and I think we're collectively working on a number of different issues in that regard.
Thank you, Supervisor Safai. Seeing no other names on the roster, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals. On behalf of Supervisor Peskin for the late Mr. Huck Pease, on behalf of Supervisor Kim for the late Mrs. Joyce June Hayes, and on behalf of Supervisor Yee, Peskin, Breed, and Sheehy for the late Mr. J. Dietrich Stroh.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, did you get the other in memoriams from my office that I didn't speak of during roll call?
Madam President, I believe that is the entirety of our in memoriams. In any case, if there are others, Madam President, we'll enter them into the minutes.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other items on our agenda, Madam Clerk, is there any other business before us today?
That concludes our business for today.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.